die verbliebenen Waffen zu zerstören, wenn die anliegenden Nationen ebenso restlos das Gleiche tun.
Born in Braunau am Inn, Austria-Hungary in 1889, Hitler's childhood was a complex tapestry. His father Alois, a strict customs official, often clashed with the young Adolf, who craved his approval. His mother, Clara, offered warmth and affection, but her untimely death in 1907 deeply affected him. A mediocre student, young Hitler displayed artistic talent. He dreamed of attending the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, a prestigious institution. However, his rejection in 1907 shattered his aspirations. Feeling like a failure, he drifted through Vienna, struggling financially and living a bohemian lifestyle. This period of hardship fueled his resentment towards authority and planted the seeds of his anti-Semitic views. He became fixated on the purity of the Aryan race and the supposed Jewish conspiracy undermining Germany. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 offered Hitler a chance to escape his perceived failures. He volunteered for the German army, eager to prove himself on the battlefield. Stationed on the Western Front, he experienced the horrors of trench warfare firsthand. The mud, the constant shelling, the ever-present threat of death. Despite witnessing the brutality of war, Hitler remained a devoted patriot. He received the Iron Cross for bravery, further fueling his sense of national pride. The war's end in 1918 was a devastating blow. Germany's defeat shattered Hitler's belief in his nation's invincibility. He was deeply disturbed by the Treaty of Versailles, which he saw as a humiliating betrayal of the German people. This sense of resentment would become a central theme in his future rhetoric. Disillusioned and adrift, Hitler returned to a chaotic Munich in the aftermath of the war. The Weimar Republic, Germany's new democratic government, struggled to maintain order amidst economic hardship and political instability. It was in this volatile climate that Hitler encountered the German Workers' Party, a fringe political group fueled by anger at the Treaty of Versailles and the perceived betrayal of the German people. Their charismatic leader, Anton Drexler, impressed Hitler with his fiery speeches, filled with anti-Semitic rhetoric and promises of national restoration. Hitler quickly rose through the ranks, utilizing his own oratory skills to captivate audiences. He became the party leader in 1921 and renamed it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. Hitler understood the power of propaganda. He appointed Joseph Goebbels, a ruthless and cunning individual, as his chief propagandist. Goebbels utilized all available media, newspapers, radio, film, to spread Nazi ideology. They vilified minorities, mostly the Jews, blaming them for Germany's woes and portraying them as a threat to the nation's purity. The Nazis staged massive rallies filled with music, pageantry, and Hitler's bombastic speeches, creating a sense of national unity and purpose. Nazi propaganda wasn't just about hate speech. It also promised a return to German glory, economic prosperity, and a strong national identity. This resonated with a population weary of economic hardship and disillusioned with the Weimar Republic's perceived weakness. The message of national rejuvenation and scapegoating of minorities proved effective in winning over many Germans. The Nazis exploited the economic hardship of the Great Depression to further their political ambitions. Germany's unemployment rate soared, leaving millions desperate for work and stability. The Nazis promised solutions, blaming Jewish financiers and communists for the country's problems. They offered a return to national pride and a strong leader in Hitler. Through a combination of violence, intimidation, and skillful manipulation of the political system, the Nazis steadily gained power. They used their paramilitary force, the Sturmabteilung, SA, to intimidate opponents and oppose political rallies. Hitler's popularity grew, and in 1933, he was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. This marked a turning point in German history. Once in power, Hitler quickly moved to consolidate control. He suspended civil liberties, cracked down on dissent, and staged a Reichstag fire that he blamed on communists, using it as a pretext to further eliminate opposition. In 1934, after Hindenburg's death, Hitler declared himself Führer, leader, and became the absolute ruler of Germany. This ushered in a totalitarian state, the Third Reich, where all aspects of life were controlled by the Nazi regime. The Nazis implemented a program of rearmament, violating the Treaty of Versailles and preparing for war. They also embarked on a series of social and economic reforms designed to create a self-sufficient nation and a racially pure society. This included restrictions on Jewish businesses and professions, ultimately leading to their persecution and eventual genocide. Hitler's expansionist ambitions, fueled by his belief in Aryan superiority, ultimately led to the outbreak of World War II. Here we explore this horrific period and the depths of Nazi barbarity. In the years leading up to the war, Hitler pursued an aggressive foreign policy. He reoccupied the Rhineland, a demilitarized zone under the Treaty of Versailles, and later annexed Austria in 1938. He then turned his attention to Czechoslovakia, a country with a large ethnic German population. Western powers, primarily Britain and France, initially adopted a policy of appeasement, hoping to avoid another war. They agreed to the Munich Agreement in 1938, allowing Germany to annex parts of Czechoslovakia. However, this appeasement only emboldened Hitler. In 1939, Germany signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, a secret agreement that divided Eastern Europe between the two totalitarian regimes. Shortly thereafter, Hitler invaded Poland, sparking the outbreak of World War II. With the war underway, Hitler unleashed the full force of his racist ideology. The Nazis implemented the systematic extermination of Jews, Roma, homosexuals, and other deemed undesirable. This horrific event, known as the Holocaust, became a defining atrocity of the 20th century. Jews were forced from their homes, herded into ghettos, and ultimately transported to concentration and extermination camps like Auschwitz and Treblinka. The Nazis used gas chambers and industrial methods of murder, enacting a genocide of unimaginable brutality. While the Holocaust was the most horrific aspect of Nazi rule, it was not the only atrocity. Millions of civilians died from starvation and disease in occupied territories. The Nazis also targeted Soviet civilians for extermination, believing them to be subhuman. The war in Europe became a brutal conflict marked by immense human suffering. Despite early victories with their blitzkrieg tactics, the tide of war eventually turned against the Nazis. The invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941 proved a disastrous miscalculation. The vastness of the Soviet Union and the harsh Russian winter severely hampered the German advance. Meanwhile, the United States entered the war after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. The combined might of the Allied forces pushed back the Nazis on all fronts. As defeat loomed, Hitler retreated to his Berlin bunker, clinging to delusional fantasies of victory. On April 30, 1945, facing imminent capture, he took his own life. A few days later, Germany surrendered, marking the end of the Third Reich and the Nazi nightmare. The world was left to grapple with the devastation of war and the monstrous legacy of Adolf Hitler. The Nuremberg trials brought Nazi leaders to justice for their crimes against humanity. Germany embarked on a long and difficult process of coming to terms with its dark past. Hitler's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked nationalism, prejudice, and the allure of charismatic but evil leaders. We must learn from the past to ensure such atrocities are never repeated. This includes remaining vigilant against racism, anti-Semitism, and all forms of intolerance. We must also remember the victims of Nazi barbarity and the courage of those who resisted the Third Reich.